Hey, Lauren.
It says it's setting up our live.
Okay.
All right, now we are live. Let's do it. Good evening, Eric. How are you?
I'm doing great, Lauren. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. I am so excited to be talking student loans for those over 50. I think they are a forgotten but not necessarily lost group of student loan borrowers that don't get enough attention. And so I'm so glad that you are focusing your expertise in your area on them. And I'm excited to give them some value, some meaning tonight on the strategies that they might be missing out on. So let's get this party started.
Yeah, absolutely. This isn't the focus is usually on the borrowers in their 20s and 30s, but the 50 and 60-year-old crowd is fast growing here. They have some issues and challenges unique to them.
So some people are already baffled, maybe they're tuning in and they're not, with student loans over 50, but let's talk about some of the ways that people ended up with these student loans. So, you're well into your 50s, you're maybe 15 years from normal retirement, quote unquote. You thought you would be done. Why do people have student loan debt in their 50s?
Yeah, so there's two main ways, really, is so you've gone back to school and taken on some more student debt later in life, or you are a parent that put your kid or kids through school and you had to take out Parent Plus loans to help fund their college. Those are the two main ways. Sometimes I see where people they just for whatever reason don't pay on their loans for years and years and years, and they end up in their 50s and have these student loan balances. But the two main ways: Parent Plus loans for their kids, or they went back to school.
Okay. So if you have watched your balance grow over the last 20 years for various and sundry reasons, know that you're not alone, that there are other people that are now well into their 50s and are struggling with their student loan debt and trying to figure out what are their options to pay it off. If you borrowed on behalf of your children, so, financial aid was not available to you, you did not save up in a 529 plan or otherwise, you're not the only parent that didn't get that done. And you're awesome for actually, borrowing on behalf of your children. So don't beat yourself up for too much. There are options out there. We're getting ready to talk about them. And then the third thing that you said, Eric, was, maybe you went back to school. You love to learn. It's a lot more expensive to learn nowadays, and you took on some debt, and now you're trying to figure out, oh gosh, retirement is just around the corner. I'm ready to, not be paying this debt, and I also want to save for retirement. So
Yeah.
let's just start by kind of thinking about like the types of repayment options that exist. So there's federal loans and there's private loans. With private loans, what are your options? And then with federal loans, what kind of options do you have, Eric?
Yeah, so private loans, if you have private loans, they're pretty much treated like any other debt. You're going to have to pay them off. There's a lot less protection. There's a lot less flexibility with how you can pay these loans off. And sometimes it makes sense to refinance a federal loan so you can get a lower interest rate type of a thing if you know you're going to pay off the loan. But for those of you that have the federal loans, there's a lot of flexibility, a lot of different payment options out there. You have typical one, the 10-year fixed payment. You can extend that out to 20 or 25 years. You can make it a graduated payment where it increases. Let's not get into those because those typically are inferior to the what are known as the income driven repayment plans. So payments based on your income. So there are, if you're a Parent Plus borrower, typically at the start, your only option is going to be income contingent repayment. Uh, it's You're going to have to do a calculation. What is your discretionary income? 20% of that goes to income contingent repayment. But then there are three other plans: pay as you earn, revised pay as you earn. Those are 10% of your discretionary income, and then income based repayment, IBR, that's 15% of your discretionary income. So they're the four the three good ones, IBR, pay as you earn, revised pay as you earn. If you can not have to pay on income contingent repayment, that would be ideal.
Okay, so you just said that there's ICR, that's 20% of your income, uh, income based repayment, which is 15% of your income, and then revised pay as you earn and pay as you earn, which are 10% of your income.
Yes.
So my question would be then, why in the heck would anybody ever pay based on 20% of their income if you could pay based on 10% of your income? Like that
That
literally cut your payment in half.
that and actually more, because the discretionary income calculation is worse under income contingent repayment. So yeah, if you're a Parent Plus borrower, if you consolidate those loans, your only income driven plan option is income contingent repayment. If they're direct loans that, let's say you went back to school later in life and they're just direct loans, not Parent Plus loans, then you have essentially the whole gamut available to you that you can choose between. So you would never choose income contingent repayment. The problem becomes when you are pigeonholed into this one repayment plan, which frankly, there's actually options that you can, strategies that you can take advantage of to not have to pay under income contingent repayment.
Ah, strategies. Okay, I like strategies. Is
Yeah.
there like a name for the strategy? Like, how do you find out about? Like, what do you do?
So I guess along the student loan nerd side of things, we call it the double loan consolidation. So uh, from its broadest view, you do two rounds of consolidation, federal consolidation loans, and then once you hit that second round of consolidation, once you do that, now you can actually get into the either revised pay as you earn, the pay as you earn plan, or the income based repayment plan. So uh, the the reason is that to pay on income contingent repayment, you have to consolidate those Parent Plus loans. And you can't pay on any other repayment plan if you have a loan that paid off a Parent Plus loan. Well, that's the first round of consolidation. But if you consolidate again, that second round, well, now you've just paid off a consolidation loan and not a Parent Plus loan. So now you are able to pay under these much stronger, much better plans.
Gotcha. Okay. So wait, let me just make sure I can summarize for everyone out there. So option number one is refinance, or I already have private loans. If I have private loans, not under the federal system at all, then I just want to try to get those off my plate as quickly as possible, pay them down aggressively, and be done with them.
Yeah.
Refinancing is an option to get a lower interest rate if I have a high interest rate, or just to get a better interest rate. So I always can look into that. And then it sounds like option number two are the people who are in the boat of I went back to school later in life, or for whatever reason, I have student loan debt that has been trailing along for years and years. And your options in that case are to use one of these income driven repayment plans. So if they're older loans, maybe they're called FFEL loans, and you might need to consolidate them, get direct loans, and get on the income driven repayment plan. Or I just borrowed recently, I'm eligible for these revised pay as you earn income based repayment. I just didn't really know what they were or how they worked. Now you know how they work because Eric just explained them to you, and you can get on one of those. Or option bucket number three, option bucket, option and bucket, is that you borrowed on behalf of your children, and those are federal loans. You can't give them over to your kids. Is that true?
Your kids would have to refinance on the private loan with the private loan company.
So if I leave
The,
federal, I lose all the federal protections that
yeah,
were there.
yeah,
Got it. Okay, so no, yeah. I mean, unless you really want your kids to just be in charge of them and be responsible for them, and then once they're private, the only thing they're going to be able to do is pay them back. So you're stuck. So third option then would be to keep those Parent Plus loans in the federal system, do this double consolidation thing you talked about, because right now I only have ICR, but if I do this double consolidation you described, I can get access to the IBR, the repay, and the pay that
Yeah,
you're referring to.
exactly. Exactly.
What are some of the other benefits of staying federal?
So if you stay federal, well, if the income driven repayment plan side is a powerful benefit, there is, you can go on deferment or forbearance depending on your income situation. If you have a hardship, where you can take up to 3 years, just not pay on your loans. Interest would still grow, but you don't have to pay. Private loan company is not going to be so lenient with you if you say, hey, company, I don't want to pay my loans right now. I'm just going to take a year off. They're not going to say, okay, that easy. But the federal loans, they will. It's legally allowed for you to do that. The other one is, this is morbid. If you pass away, then your loans are completely forgiven. Your spouse isn't going to be on the hook. Your heirs aren't going to be on the hook to pay them off. They go away with you. Or if you have a total and permanent disability, your loans are forgiven there as well. A lot of different things you can do with the student loans as far as the payments, of course, but then also the protections that you have, that are pretty powerful as well.
Yeah, sounds like quite a bit. And I know a lot of people as well are taking advantage of COVID forbearance right now. So 0% interest and no payments necessary. So if you're in a situation where you had job loss or, decreased income, you're not having to pay your loans at all right now. And it's not affecting you overall because there's no interest accruing during what they're calling the COVID forbearance. So sounds like there's a lot of flexibility that people get by staying in the federal system, but it could
Yeah.
also be more expensive if it's more appropriate to refinance. Is that right?
Potentially, if you have a higher, if you can get a lower interest rate for, we're in a very low interest rate environment right now. Um, and if payments are scheduled to go back in, online in October, so if you can lower your interest rate and you have a longer time horizon for paying off these loans, refinancing now might even be a better idea. Uh, because the interest, what the interest rate is now that you're going to get. There's potential for there to be a higher interest rate come October. So if you can get that lower interest rate now, get a lower payment, that can help you pay off the loans better. Let's not also forget, I don't think we brought this up, forgiveness. That's a huge benefit you get when, when you have a federal loan.
Forgiveness. Wait, how does forgiveness work? Like,
So
that's a huge benefit. I'm like, okay, tell us more about
yeah, so if you have a federal loan, then you can either pay, if you're on an income-driven plan. These really only work if you're on income-driven plans, uh, typically. 20 or 25 years is the standard forgiveness length of time, which is, frankly, you can do that if your loans are high enough and your income is low enough, the comparison anyway. Or if you're working in a public sector or a nonprofit, you can qualify for what's known as public service loan forgiveness, which, that's a 10-year length, 10-year duration. At the end of that, as long as you make those qualifying payments, jump through the hoops, then there's no tax on that forgiveness. Whereas with the standard forgiveness, 20, 25 years, not only do you have a longer forgiveness duration or payment duration, but you're also taxed on the forgiveness as well.
Okay, so public service is working at some sort of public service place, like a hospital. Is that like
Hospital,
a nonprofit?
government job, but a lot of hospitals are nonprofit. There are some for-profit hospitals out there, but a lot of nonprofit hospitals, um, uh, working for the Red Cross, a charity, any nonprofit, essentially any nonprofit, government, if you're working for the county or school system, those are really big um, areas where you have a lot of employees working for those types of jobs that really qualify for this public service loan forgiveness program.
Okay, so that's 10 years, and after 10 years, whatever is left over is forgiven. And then the other one that you talked about was called taxable forgiveness. That's 20 or 25, 20 to 20 to 25 years, or 20 or 25 years. And whatever's left over at that time period is not forgiven in its entirety, in the sense that, like, the student loan balance is forgiven, but I have to pay taxes as if I earned that amount in, whatever year it's forgiven.
Yeah, yeah. Let's say you at the end of the time horizon, you have $200,000 of loans that were forgiven under the standard forgiveness, the taxable forgiveness option. That $200,000 would be considered income, and then you'd have to pay tax on that $200,000 plus whatever else your income was that year. So it's, as long as it can really help you save a lot of money, even going for the standard forgiveness option. And as long as you plan for it ahead of time, you can really save a lot of money sometimes.
Okay, I like it. I like it. So, would it be a good strategy then? Like, I'm a parent who it needs to borrow. My kid wants to go to school, and I didn't save up. For various reasons. I've had different financial hardships throughout the year. But on paper, my income looks good enough that they're not going to offer my child any financial aid. Um, could it be a strategy where I, go find a job at one of these public service places if I'm not already at one, and commit to working there for the next 10 years and take advantage of this? So basically, I borrow for my child, get whatever they need, and then I work for 10 years and I get some forgiveness. And so maybe I don't pay as much as I thought.
If so, it's important to keep in mind that where you work and where you spend your working hours is important. So you don't want to just make this decision based on numbers alone. But if you're looking at this is, I could like this job that's in a public sector or nonprofit sector employer, or I also like this job, but it's for a private for-profit company. Um, you might want to take that public sector or nonprofit job, because that can really save you a lot of money, be very powerful in terms of not only helping you pay down your loans more effectively, but also, since you're not having to worry about your student loans, now you can save for retirement a lot more effectively as well.
Okay, I like it. So it's an option, but I shouldn't change my whole life to pursue it. Um, I should just, if it's available to me as an option, look into that as one of the big benefits of that employer if I'm, switching jobs or willing to switch
Use
jobs.
it as an option, but don't, it's a 10-year plan, and you don't want to get 6, 7 years down the road being miserable. Not only miserable for, what if you're miserable for 10 years, but what if you go down 6, 7 years, can't take it, or get laid off, whatever, and now, you know, you spent 6, 7 years of your life being miserable, and now you still don't get the forgiveness. So don't always base the decision on numbers alone, but let it be a factor, let it be an option for you to consider.
Okay, I got another scenario for you. One more.
Sure.
So, we're talking student loans over 50. So let's say I'm 55 years old, and I just learned about this income driven thing that you just told me about. So I want to get on the income or the revised pay as you earn plan and start paying my Parent Plus loans back, or even my own student loans back. Well, I'm 55. You just told me it's going to take 25 years to pay my loans back. I'm going to be 80. Like, so what happens at age 80 if I don't have enough money to pay this tax liability? Um, you know, I might kick the bucket before I get to 80. Like this is a really long time to be looking at having student loans hanging over your head. What advice do you have for people, as they age and they have to think about like what's at the end of the road?
Well, we already talked about that morbid aspect of things. If you die, then your loans die with you, and your spouse, your heirs, they're not going to be on the hook for this, nor are you. So there is one strategy, just call it die with your debt. Um, Maybe you go 20, 25 years. Maybe at that time, maybe you look at trying to prove that you have a total and permanent disability, even. If you're 80, 85, how likely is it that you can work? Maybe not that likely. If it is likely that you can work, well, if you have multiple loans, how about we consolidate again, make that another 20, it resets the clock, make it another 20, 25 years down the line. So instead of now 80, 85, this forgiveness, this this loan is now going to be forgiven in another 20, 25 years. So now you're looking at 100, 110 when your loans are forgiven. And if it's not as likely that you're going to live to 85, I mean, a lot of people live to 85, but then how likely is it that you're going to live to 105, 110? Um,
And at that
Not
point,
as
you're one of the
likely.
oldest people who have ever lived. So they should just forgive your loans on just based on that principle
Let's go
alone.
with that. Yes. So, you can also, sometimes it makes sense to stretch the forgiveness period out as far as you can. And you can do that with um, in this case, a second consolidation, not the double loan consolidation strategy we talked about before, but a second consolidation towards the end of the forgiveness period.
Okay. I like it. I think these are some really good tips. Is there anything else that you want to share with borrowers who may be over 50 and looking for strategies for repaying their student loans?
There are a lot more options than you might think out there on how to deal with your debt. It makes sense to prioritize making sure you have a good emergency fund in place. Make sure your credit card debt and your other loans are taken care of first. Take care of retirement, prioritize your retirement savings. You might not want to try and pay down aggressively your federal student loans because it's going to get in the way of your retirement. So if you can shave off those years that you have to work, and that's something you want to do, maybe your student loans aren't as big of a priority. And just know that there's options out there for you to get help, get a strategy for your loans, and pay them down smartly.
I love it. I love it. Eric, thank you so much for dropping all the gems, all the knowledge tonight for people who are over 50. I do student loans as well. I've worked with people who are over 50, but you have decided to really focus on this area. I prefer to work with young professionals, and yeah, you are niching out to this market. So tell people where they can find you so that they can, get customized advice if they have student loans and they're over 50.
So the website is still under construction right now. It's going to be studentloansover50.com. You can certainly find me there in about a month. Otherwise, reach out to me on hilltopfa.com. That's my other financial planning site. Hilltop, F as in financial, A as in advisor.com. Schedule an appointment, email me from there. Happy to have a conversation.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on tonight. It was a lovely conversation. We'll have to do this again.
Thanks for having me, Lauren.